How does a single, rusted screwdriver and a common $1 coin bring the most sophisticated security system on the planet to its knees? Welcome to Las Vegas, a city where billions of dollars pulse through shimmering corridors, protected by an invisible fortress of artificial intelligence, facial recognition, and 4K cameras that never blink. In this cathedral of neon and greed, every movement is tracked, every heartbeat is measured, and every exit is a gauntlet of high-tech surveillance. It is, by all accounts, the most watched square mile on Earth. Yet, in the heart of this digital stronghold, the unthinkable happened. An elderly man looking more like a lost tourist than a master criminal walked into a premier slot gallery armed with nothing but a tool you'd find in a dusty junk drawer and a coin worth less than a cheap cup of coffee. He didn't hack the mainframe with complex code. He didn't bypass lasers with acrobatic precision. He simply stood there under the harsh glow of the casino lights and dismantled a fortune piece by piece. But the million-dollar question remains, how did hundreds of security professionals, with their eyes glued to state of the art monitors, stand completely frozen while a thief walked right out the front door, clutching a literal king's ransom? Why did the alarms stay silent? Why did the world's most advanced AI ignore a mountain of red flags while a crime was being committed in broad daylight? Tonight, we peel back the layers of a heist that wasn't about high-tech gadgets, but about a fatal, primitive flaw in the human mind itself. This is the detailed timeline of the $1 flaw. A heist so simple it was invisible, and a challenge to the police, to the industry, and to the very idea of safety. Here is the detailed timeline of how it happened. 11 p.m. The arrival. Las Vegas pulsates under a canopy of artificial stars, a sprawling oasis of light in the heart of the Mojave. The Strip is a living, breathing creature, its veins flowing with tourists, high rollers, and the desperate, all chasing a dream that usually ends in the house winning. Inside the Grand Sapphire casino, the atmosphere is electric, the air is cold, filtered, and infused with a scent designed to keep you awake and betting. Thousands of slot machines create a wall of sound, a chaotic symphony of digital bells, electronic fanfares, and the rhythmic clatter of falling coins. It's here, through the spinning glass doors of the north entrance, that our suspect makes his appearance. He doesn't look like a threat. He wears a faded beige windbreaker and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. To the dozens of facial recognition cameras scanning the room, he is just another face in a sea of 10,000. He moves with a steady, ordinary pace, passing the blackjack tables and the velvet-roped VIP lounges without a second glance. He isn't looking for a game, he is looking for a specific coordinate on the map, 11:15 p.m. approaching the target. The man reaches the high-limit slot gallery, a cathedral of gold-plated machines and plush carpets where the minimum bet is more than most people earn in a month. Above him, a cluster of 4K domes. The eye in the sky monitors every square inch of the floor. These cameras are linked to a sophisticated AI that tracks suspicious hand movements and irregular betting patterns. But the man isn't betting. He stops in front of a massive, shimmering machine near the back of the gallery, a crown jewel of the casino floor. Hidden inside his right sleeve, held against his forearm by a simple rubber band, is a rusted flathead screwdriver. It's a tool that belongs in a garage, not a billion-dollar facility. He stands there for a moment, scanning the room not with fear, but with the cold precision of a technician. He waits for the security rotation to pass. He knows the blind spots, not in the cameras, but in the human attention span. Another man, his accomplice, stands 20 feet away, pretending to read a digital directory, his eyes flicking between his watch and the security podium. No words are exchanged. The show is about to begin, 11:30 p.m., The Breach. Under the cover of a loud jackpot celebration 3 aisles over, the man moves. His hands are steady, practiced. He doesn't look at the machine's cabinet. He feels it. He slides the dollar coin into the slot, a legitimate entry to bypass the initial sensor check. But as the machine's internal gears begin to whirl, he slides the screwdriver into a microscopic gap in the casing, a design flaw in this specific model that only a handful of people in the world know about. The metal screams against the reinforced steel, a harsh grating wail that is instantly swallowed by the roar of the casino. In the central control room, a yellow warning light flickers on a secondary monitor. It signals a mechanical interference on Unit 742. A young security operator glances at it, then looks at the camera feed. He sees an old man leaning against the machine, looking frustrated, perhaps waiting for his payout. The operator sighs, muttering about the age of the equipment and the frequent maintenance glitches of the weekend. He silences the alert, assuming it's a stuck hopper or a jammed coin. He would realize the gravity of that mistake 48 hours later. It would be far too late. 11:45 p.m. The diversion. Inside the machine, the screwdriver has found its mark, tripping a manual override switch that forces the digital brain into a free play loop. But the suspect needs time to harvest the credits without drawing the eye of the floor supervisors. Suddenly, a commotion erupts at the high roller baccarat table, just 50 feet away. A woman, another accomplice, screams that she's been insulted, throwing a drink across the green felt. The sound of shattering glass echoes across the gallery. Visitors stop mid-step. Security guards rush toward the noise, their radios crackling with urgent commands. The hallways become a tangle of confusion and movement. In that critical window of chaos, the man at the slot machine is a ghost. He isn't watching the fight, he's watching the credit counter on his machine climb into the hundreds of thousands. He moves with an efficient, silent intensity, his hands working the override with a rhythm that suggests he has done this dozens of times in a basement mock-up. The sparks from the internal short-circuit glow faintly behind the glass, masked by the flashing neon lights of the casino floor. 12 a.m., the departure. The distraction at the baccarat table is dying down as security escorts the shouting woman toward the exit. The man in the windbreaker finally pulls the screwdriver back into his sleeve. He hits the cash out button. The machine doesn't spit out coins, it prints a single, unassuming thermal ticket. A piece of paper worth a fortune. He pockets the ticket and turns away, his face still obscured by the brim of his cap. He doesn't run, he doesn't look back at the machine, which now sits dark and lifeless, its internal systems fried. He walks toward the main exit, melting into the midnight crowd of revelers pouring out onto the strip. By the time the floor supervisor notices the dead unit and calls for a technician, the man has already crossed the street and vanished into the neon sea of Las Vegas. Behind him, the Grand Sapphire continues to roar, its lights reflecting off the empty glass of the slot gallery like broken mirrors, unaware that a 100-year-old security philosophy had just been dismantled by a $1 coin. But how did he get away with it? And more importantly, why did the smartest cameras in the world fail to see what was happening right in front of them? The answer lies in a blind spot not of technology, but of biology. Would you like me to continue with Section 3, where we explain the psychological enlightenment of why the cameras and guards failed to see the heist? The slot machine is dead, the ticket is gone, and the Grand Sapphire is left with $1 million hole in its pocket and 1,000 questions that no one seems able to answer. But as the forensic teams descend on the slot gallery, dusting for prints and downloading terabytes of footage, a singular, haunting question remains: how? How did the smartest cameras in the world look directly at a crime and see absolutely nothing? Why did the operators in the sky, trained to spot a card counter from 100 yards, stand completely frozen while a fortune was dismantled right in front of them? The answer isn't a failure of technology. It is a failure of biology. What happened that night at the Grand Sapphire is a phenomenon psychologists call inattentional blindness. It is the psychological equivalent of a cloaking device, and it is the most dangerous vulnerability in any security system. To understand why the guards froze, you have to understand the psychological landscape of a casino floor. In the central control room, operators are bombarded by 1,000 flickering screens. Their brains are flooded with data, and to survive that overload, they have to filter. They are trained, and their AI is programmed to look for the big bad. They look for the man with the mask. They look for the glint of a firearm. They look for the sudden, aggressive sprint toward the vault. They are programmed to recognize the heist, as we see it in the movies, violent, loud, and obvious. But this man, he didn't fit the profile. He was an elderly man in a beige windbreaker. He looked like someone's grandfather who had lost his way to the buffet. When he slid that screwdriver into the machine, the AI didn't flag it as a weapon. In the massive database of threats, a screwdriver is categorized as a maintenance tool. It represents repair, not destruction. When the security operator saw the red warning light on his monitor, his brain performed a lightning, fast calculation based on years of habit. He saw a man leaning over a machine with a tool. He didn't see a thief, he saw a technical glitch. He saw a machine that needed service. In that moment, the brain didn't just ignore the red flag, it actively suppressed it to maintain the normal version of reality. As one former Gaming Commission investigator later noted, it wasn't a lack of attention, it was a surplus of expectation. We see what we expect to see. The brain simply couldn't process that $1 million theft was happening with a dollar coin and a hand tool. It was too small, too quiet, too ordinary. This is the moment that professional grifters have exploited for centuries. They don't try to outrun the cameras, they try to outthink the person behind the lens. They give the system exactly what it wants to see, something boring. The thieves engineered a perfect storm of sound, motion, and psychological misdirection. By creating the distraction at the baccarat table, they triggered the guards' engagement protocol. In the security world, especially in crowded public spaces like a Vegas casino, the first duty is evacuation and public safety, not the protection of a single slot machine. When the glass shattered at the baccarat table, every guard in the vicinity was legally and professionally obligated to move toward the noise. They were forced to retreat from the slot gallery to protect the public from what they assumed was a violent escalation. The thieves didn't shout or threaten, they simply used the museum-level security protocols against the museum itself. It is a chilling lesson in the limits of modernity. We spend billions of dollars on facial recognition that can identify a face in a crowd of millions, but we are still defeated by a man who looks like he belongs. We build digital fortresses with firewalls that can stop 1,000 hackers a second, yet we leave the physical world vulnerable to a tool from the Stone Age. The Grand Sapphire was a cathedral of light and technology, but it was built on the shaky foundation of human perception. The system was so focused on the complex threats of the future that it forgot how to defend against the simple crimes of the past. For nearly 48 hours, the heist was treated as a series of unrelated technical errors. The operators went home, the baccarat table was cleaned, and the city moved on as if nothing had happened. Vegas pulsated with its usual steady, ordinary heartbeat, unaware that its high-tech armor had been pierced by a ghost. But while the boardrooms were scrambling to update their algorithms and the casino floor was falling silent, a different kind of hunt was beginning. Because even the most invisible ghost leaves a trace. Beneath the glare of the forensic lights, the police were about to find a trail that no amount of psychological misdirection could hide. The $1 question was about to get its answer. Would you like me to finish with Section 4, the resolution, where we cover the capture of the suspect and the final twist of the mastermind? But even ghosts leave a trace. As forensic investigators meticulously cataloged the crime scene, they found something surprisingly careless for such a calculated heist. A microscopic fragment of DNA was recovered from the handle of the rusted screwdriver and the edge of the $1 coin left inside the dead machine. On October 25th, after cross-referencing European and domestic criminal databases, the search narrowed to a specific, desperate corner of the city. 200 a.m., the suburban outskirts. The tension was almost tangible as a specialized anti-gang brigade moved through the shadows of a desolate neighborhood. Their hearts raced, knowing the margin for error in a raid of this scale. In a silent and focused operation, they zeroed in on a modest, flickering bus stop. There, sitting on a rusted bench, was our suspect. He didn't look like a mastermind. Beneath the harsh, cold fluorescent light of the street lamp, he looked haggard, tired, and desperate. Every motion of the police was executed with discipline, their years of training evident as they swept in and arrested him before he could even look up. He yielded quietly to the officers, a stark contrast to the brilliant, invisible thief who had dismantled a billion-dollar system just 48 hours prior. Meanwhile, in the cold interview rooms of the police station, the investigation began to peel back the final layer of the mystery. From 200 a.m. until dawn, the suspect was processed and interrogated. But for the seasoned observers in the room, the man seemed more like a foot soldier than an architect. Under the cold lights, he finally confessed. He was an old man with nothing left to lose, hired for a few $100s to follow a set of simple, mechanical instructions. He was a pawn. While he sat in a cell, the $1 million jackpot had already been fragmented, tumbled, and vanished into a web of untraceable cryptocurrency accounts. The real architects, the ones who orchestrated the distraction, identified the mechanical flaw, and planned the digital escape routes, are still at large. They are the ghosts who remain in the machine. The Grand Sapphire eventually fell silent. Inside, the empty slot machine caught the light like a broken mirror, reflecting not just a theft, but a challenge to our modern world. It is a reminder of how fragile our belief in technology truly is. We build fortresses of AI and 4K surveillance, yet we are still vulnerable to the most ancient tool in the world, a human being who knows exactly where we aren't looking. The system is back online, the lights are bright, and the cameras are watching. But as you walk through those neon halls, ask yourself, is the person next to you a tourist, or a shadow waiting for the next $1 flaw? If you want to see more exclusive engineering animations and deep dives into the world's most high-stakes heists, please support us by subscribing and dropping a comment below.